What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good weekend. It's Saturday, but the transfer news as we head closer and closer to the January transfer window does not stop. Even though it's World Cup season, there's still plenty of Manchester United news to get into, especially in this search for Cristiano Ronaldo's replacement. Of course, now that Ronaldo's left the club, we're just a little bit light up front. We were light up front with Cristiano, really, weren't we? But now that he's gone, we're definitely on the search for a striker in January. Manchester United's hand has been forced. Previously, it was reported that plans were in place for the summer for Manchester United to search for a new striking option. But now with CR7's departure, we're looking for a striker in January. And possibly there could be actually 3 options to choose from. I'm going to talk about them all this morning. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. If you haven't, if you dare, you can go and watch the highlights as well of the match view from yesterday's England versus USA ball draw, 0-0. Still recovering from that. You don't want to overreact too much because, look, we're still in a good position from an England point of view. We're still top of the table, still top of Group B on 4 points. But now we've got to go into that last game against Wales. We've got to get a win. And suddenly, it's made a little bit more difficult than maybe it should be. And I've got to be honest, Alexis, I don't know if you're watching this. I got your message this morning. And it was a picture of him saying 4-0 away. And a picture of him holding up some alcoholic beverage. How dare you? How dare you? But look, they deserve the bragging rights for their big 0-0 win yesterday, USA. So it's no problem whatsoever. Let's get on to some transfer news. Because forget that. Let's park that. Let's talk about something really important. That's Manchester United. So let's start off talking about Cody Gakpo. Yes, Cody Gakpo yesterday got his second goal in 2 games for the Netherlands at the World Cup. Obviously, we were heavily linked to him in the summer. PSV were looking to sell. And realistically, the only reason the move didn't happen in the summer is because we spent so much money on Antony. At one point, the thought process was it was going to be Antony and Gakpo. But then once that Antony price tag snowballed, getting up to 100 million euros, about 80 million pounds, suddenly United went, well, that was our budget for the summer, and January ruled out. So we weren't going to do any business in January. That was our business for the summer. However, a little thing happened, which was Cristiano Ronaldo having an interview with Piers Morgan. And because he had that interview with Piers Morgan, he then had his contract mutually terminated, and we're short. We need a striker up front. So heading into January, possibly United are looking to reignite their interest in the PSV winger. And just to give a bit of an update on Cody Gakpo, this comes from Voetbal International, which of course is a Dutch outlet, saying Gakpo update focuses completely on the World Cup, followed by talks between his agent and top clubs, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Liverpool and Bayern Munich. Certainly not a foregone conclusion that he is going. The target amount is 50 million plus. Now, in addition to that, other outlets such as Sebastian Dennis, who I believe might be an Italian outlet there, it says that Cody Gakpo is Manchester United's top priority in January. PSV wants 60 million euros. It continues here. This is from a French outlet called Foot Mercato. Pronunciation is all over the place, as always. You know me. Saying Erik Ten Hag, who particularly appreciates Gakpo, has made him his winter priority. Ten Hag likes the immense advantage of the player being able to play on the entire front of the attack. Of course, he can basically play across the entire front three. Traditionally, he's more of a left winger. And that might raise a few people's eyebrows there, because you would say, well, left winger, we've got a lot of left wingers at Manchester United. We've got Marcus Rashford, we've got Jadon Sancho, we've got the emergence of Alejandro Garnacho. Why would we need Cody Gakpo? Well, I see Cody Gakpo as I say perfect, but as the perfect winter signing. I think he's the perfect January option for us, because when you're looking for players in January, and there are a couple of other striking options that we're going to get into, you've probably seen them on the thumb, but when you look at January options, they have to be feasible. You can start talking about big superstar names like Joao Felix, like Victor Osimhen, who we're going to talk about. But at the same time, January is traditionally a difficult time of the year to do business. It's not impossible. I think sometimes club use that narrative as just an excuse. I think sometimes they look at it and say, well, it's difficult to buy people in January, so we'll wait until the summer. And sometimes it's just laziness. Sometimes it's not wanting to rock the boat. Sometimes it's not wanting to overpay. But there are people available in January. It was proven last year. Vlahovic, Diaz. There's always people available, because there's always a pool of players that they were out of contract in the summer, or they were going to be moved on last summer, but it didn't happen. They told the club they would stick around for 6 more months or a few more months, and then they go in January. So there are people available, and clearly Cody Gakpo is one of those names that will be available. He was available in the summer. Reportedly, by all accounts, PSV expected to sell him last summer, and financially, they didn't really budget for not selling him, and they're at the point now where they're like, no, okay, it didn't happen in the summer, but he really needs to go now in January. As far as, he's obviously having a fantastic season. I think is it 13 goals and 17 assists, something like that for PSV this season. The numbers are very impressive. And then obviously now in the World Cup, that's just upped his price even more, and that's going to be the case. And I've seen some people saying, oh, here we go, United again late to the party. But I do think you have to look at things in context. We spent so much money in the summer, we overpaid in the summer, and it got to the point where, if we would have bought Cody Gakpo for 40, 50 million, that would have increased the spending even more. So I think United probably felt, oh, we can come back to him next summer if he's still there. Of course, he did turn down a couple of moves in the closing stages of the window as well. I think Leeds had agreed a fee, I believe, with PSV, and Cody Gakpo said, no, I don't want to go there. I think Southampton was the same, and he said, no, I don't want to go there. And clearly, after the World Cup he's having at the moment, United's interest will be reignited. And I think he'll be the perfect winter signing for us because he's a stopgap. He's a stopgap-po. Not bad. I think that in the summer, we will still go for that more traditional number 9. I think we'll go for that more traditional striker. At the moment, in terms of the January options, I'm not sure you can find much better than Cody Gakpo at the moment. And when I say better, I don't necessarily just mean quality. What I mean is that he's a player that's available. We know his price. We know that price, 50 million euros. He can play across the front three. Yes, he's not a officially recognised striker, but he'll do for now. And then in the summer, we can go for that big striker, that big 80 million, 90 million pound striker. Who even knows what our ownership situation is going to be then? So by that point, who cares about price, right? We could maybe go really big in the summer. And again, I think that Gakpo, even though you would say, well, you're kind of lopsiding the attack there because we've got, at that point, four left wingers, and we've already got a lot anyway. I don't think Gakpo would be brought in to really play on that left side. I think he would be the striker, or we've seen Rashford play up front already this season. It might be a case of, okay, Gakpo, you come in, you'll be on the left, you'll be competing with Garnacho and Sancho, and Rashford, you'll be the person that's supporting Anthony Martial for the remainder of the season. And then come the summer, the striking position will still be a priority because it's very difficult to go out in January and sign an 80, 90 million pound striker because most of the time they're talismanic figures for their respective sides, and unless something massively has gone wrong with their relationship with the club, which might be a case of another name we'll talk about in a second, it's just very difficult to do that kind of deal and do that kind of business. So I think Gakpo is that good signing. The only concern I suppose would be now is that because he's having such a World Cup, and look, every other club, if possible, wants to do business in January. So those names have been put out there of Real Madrid, Liverpool, Bayern Munich. If we're getting into somewhat of a bidding war, suddenly it could become more expensive, and that could be an issue. And two, look, those clubs are in the Champions League still. Those clubs are still competing for trophies. Not so much Liverpool, but certainly Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and the lure of them over Manchester United would be huge. That's, though, and this is what paid off for us in the summer when it came to signings, that's what Erik ten Hag is there for. That's the Erik ten Hag factor. Erik ten Hag, of course, didn't work with him because Gakpo was at PSV and Ten Hag was at Ajax. But Ten Hag has that Dutch relationship. It's a name that reportedly he wanted since the summer. And it just goes to show, never question Erik ten Hag's eye for talent. Cody Gakpo was an Erik ten Hag signing, an Erik ten Hag target he wanted in the summer. He was a name that Erik ten Hag had identified, once again, from the Eredivisie. And now we're seeing him play well in the World Cup. People go, oh, Cody Gakpo, how great is he? Erik ten Hag saw it. He saw it in the summer. Now, I've also seen some people push back and say, actually, he's not that good. He's not that good. And Okay, and he might not be as good as some of the other names we'll talk about in a second, but at the same time, the most important thing, I think, when it comes to a January signing is that they're attainable, the price is set, and you can do the deal quickly. And that's all three ticked with Cody Gakpo, and he's putting numbers on the board. You can't argue with that. You can say, well, I saw him play, he didn't look that good, or a question about certain aspects of his ability, but if he's getting goals, and that's what we're bringing him in for, what more can we ask for? If you can bring in a guy, 40, 50 million euros, I'm not going to say he's going to get as many goals as he's got in the Eredivisie, but even if he gets, so he's on what, 13, even if he got 10 goals and half as many assists, or 10 assists pretty much, so he's on about 17, about 8 assists between now and the end of the season, you go, that's not bad. It's not bad. No disrespect to the CR7 stands out there, but that's more than Ronaldo was contributing, and I'm not saying Cody Gakpo is better than Ronaldo, but at the same time, you need someone that's going to come in and have an impact. He's quite rangy. He's taller than you think. He's powerful. Again, I think he's the one for January. I think that's the easiest and right option. And I know sometimes the easiest isn't the right option, but I really do think that is the case with Cody Gakpo. So here's hoping. Fingers crossed United can pull off that deal. But again, depending on what Gakpo now does for the remainder of this World Cup, might be a little bit more challenging, because I think there will be other clubs, big clubs, that'll be interested in Gakpo come January, because again, he's available. Now, as far as other targets, you probably saw it on the thumb. Victor Osimhen. Let's talk about the Napoli striker, because this comes from Florian Plettenberg, of course, a big reporter out in Germany, saying that Victor Osimhen is one of the top candidates to replace Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United. The problem, however, is that Napoli don't want to let him go in January, regardless of the money. United don't want to pay 100 million euros, and there are no negotiations, rather, as of right now. Now, again, Osimhen was a name that we were linked to in the summer. We kind of, again, know his price. We know that his price has been quoted at 100 million euros since the summer. I think it was actually pounds we were quoted, actually, 100 million pounds. So it's a lot of money. And I said, this one is not impossible, but it's highly unlikely for right now. I think when I say it's not impossible, it's because I do think Osimhen will leave Napoli at the end of the season. I do think there'll be clubs around the world that'll be interested in purchasing him at the end of the season. Again, there was interest in him last summer, and there will be even more interest in him this coming summer. Napoli, for me, would be absolutely insane to let him go at this point. If you look at Serie A, they're top of the league. They're clear by, 8 points? And Osimhen is scoring goals for fun. And Napoli, a side that hasn't won Serie A many times. I don't know if they've ever won it. I think they may have won it on a handful of occasions. But certainly, in more recent history, they've been the team that's been there or thereabouts, but not winning. They'll finish second a load of time, third a load of time. The one time suddenly they are top of the league, clear of everyone else, they would let go their star striker in January. That makes no sense. Even if Manchester United threw a load of money at them, which again, I don't think Manchester United wants to throw a lot of money at this situation. I think they want to wait till the summer to do that. So I don't see Manchester United in January saying we're going to buy Victor Osimhen for 100 million euros or 100 million pounds. I would love the ambition. It would be a stark change of pace for Manchester United under the current ownership, and maybe that kind of ambition can come through our next owners. Our next owners can possibly, if things aren't working, spend 100 million pounds on a striker and really put a statement of intent down, but I don't see that in this current structure at Manchester United. So I would be really surprised to see Osimhen come over to United in January. I do think he's a good player. I do think he's a goal scorer, and I do think that he's going to be right up the top of that list for us come the summer. And again, that depends on a lot of factors. I don't think it really depends on what Napoli do for the rest of the season. Even if they win the league, I think United go after him. But, if we're not in the Champions League, maybe it makes that deal more difficult. So there's those bigger deals. That's going to hinge on some other external factors, I think, as well. But as far as January, I've always pushed back on Osimhen coming in January because I just don't think that makes any sense. From a United perspective, of course, it makes sense to buy a great striker. But from a Napoli perspective, I just don't understand. I don't see the logic in why they'd let go their star striker in the middle of a title push, in a rare title push when they're top of the table. I just think that's so unlikely and would be so bad business on their part, even though it'd be an astronomical amount of money. I think that's just really unlikely. So I think that one's less likely. But certainly come the summer, I think that's a real possibility, and I think United should be in for him. Finally, Joao Felix. Now, Joao Felix, another name we were linked to in the summer. And this is kind of a recurring theme here, isn't it, folks? Is that all of these names, United, it's not the first time United have been linked with them. So clearly there could be smoke to that fire, or those parties close to the players still feel that United are interested in them. So this comes when it comes back to Joao Felix, and this comes from Marca, of course, big outlet in Spain, saying that Joao Felix is close to leaving Atletico in January. Manchester United, Bayern Munich, PSG, and Chelsea are all great candidates to sign him. So this is quite an interesting one because, as I mentioned, it's not the first time we've been linked to Joao Felix. There was a story that was out there for like a day, 48 hours, and it was just after the terrible start to the season, after we lost to Brighton, after we lost to Brentford. Randomly, it came out there, Manchester United have bid 100 million euros for Joao Felix, and it was immediately turned down, by all accounts. I don't even know if a real bid actually went in, but there was that story that was out there, and United looking at Felix has been a thing. That clearly has been a thing. Clearly, he's on a list. And Joao Felix being unhappy at Atletico Madrid is clearly a thing. There have been reports for, I think, the last couple of months saying that he'd fallen out with Simeone or he wasn't happy being there. And frankly, him being at Atletico, even when he went there as a teenager and became the world's most expensive teenager at the time, I think it was, it didn't make sense because this was such a flair player, such a bright attacking talent, going into that Simeone side, which is, very structured, very robust, defensive at times. It just didn't. Flair players just don't seem to suit, really. And look, he still has managed to do fantastic things at Atletico. I remember when we played him in the Champions League last season, he scored against us because he's a proper player. That's what he does. And certainly he's a player you could absolutely see working in an Erik ten Hag system at Manchester United. And I mean, I suppose this one's more possible than Victor Osimhen because there's a possibility he could be available. Now, he could be available for a premium, and Manchester United getting involved again into that race with Bayern Munich, PSG and Chelsea could be difficult. But at the same time, when you've just lost a Cristiano Ronaldo and a top elite world-class striker does become available in January, and that sort of solution does fall into your lap, that's when I go, you have to start showing ambition. That's when you start having to go, actually, we were talking about people, waiting to the summer and going for people in the summer. But if someone becomes available at the right time, you strike. It's a bit like the Bruno Fernandes situation, right? We were going for Bruno Fernandes the summer before we signed him. It didn't work out. And then the mindset was, well, okay, we'll wait till next year. We'll sign him next year. Then he became properly available in January and we bought him. And that needs to be the case here. If Joao Felix is legitimately available, and I say legitimately, not like, reports, he's unhappy that he doesn't move in January. If legitimately the decision has been made, we're selling him in January by Atleti, then United need to really look at that because you're actively on the search for a striking option once fallen into your lap. Now, I don't see us signing both Cody Gakpo and Joao Felix, to be honest with you. And historically, the Glazonomic solution would be the cheaper alternative, which would be Cody Gakpo, and the easier alternative, which would be Cody Gakpo. But if there is a realistic opportunity for us to go for Joao Felix, and a player of that quality doesn't become available that often, especially in the January window, then maybe you have to do it. Maybe you have to do it, maybe you have to go for it. But again, at the moment, as far as you can see, it's just reports. So unless anything more concrete comes out, we'll have to wait and see. But certainly, again, as I said at the top of the video, there is always this pushback when it comes to signing players in January. Oh, it's difficult. Sometimes you have to pay a premium, or there aren't that many players available. Well, we've just spoken there. Maybe not Victor Osimhen, but certainly Cody Gakpo, and maybe, just maybe, Joao Felix could be available in January. And if that is the case, it's now Manchester United's prerogative to sign someone, because make no mistake, we cannot go through January without bringing in some kind of striking option. Because if we don't, we were light with Ronaldo. Ronaldo was at the club, and we were still like, we need to sign a striker in January. We definitely need to sign a striker in the summer. That has not changed. If anything, the whole process has been expedited. It's crucial now. Our season, you could argue, hinges upon it. What we're going to achieve this season, and when I say achieve, I don't mean winning the Premier League, because that's not going to happen. But I mean getting into the top four, and already our targets that we're going to be looking at for next season that hinges on what we really do in January. Because if we don't sign a striker in January, if we fail to qualify for the Champions League or whatever throughout the remainder of the season, they'll point to January and say, we should have signed someone, we should have done more. So let me know your thoughts. Comment section below, who should we sign? Are you interested in Gakpo, Osimhen, Felix, or someone else? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the UB Members Club. Links in the video description. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. Plenty of United content coming soon, and I'll speak for you again very soon. Have a great Saturday. I'm out of here. Peace.